Today, we're tackling one of the most underestimated steps in cookie decorating, filling your piping bag. I know what you're thinking. How hard can it be? But here's the thing. This one step can be the difference between a smooth decorating session and a total icing meltdown. Trust me, I've been there. So, what's the secret to getting it right? It's all in the details. Stick with me, and I'll walk you through exactly how to prep and fill your piping bag like a pro. Whether you're outlining intricate designs or flooding cookies with that perfect glossy finish, the way you fill your bag sets the tone for the entire process. Ready to learn some game-changing tips? I'm Arina, and on this channel, I share my favorite recipes and decorating tips to help you create treats that look just as amazing as they taste, all straight from my home kitchen to yours. Check out the description below for links to the tools I use and other recipes to inspire your baking. Let's dive in. First things first, let's talk about the piping bags. For royal icing, I always use thin, disposable piping bags. They're flexible, easy to handle, and give you the precision you need for clean designs. A thin bag lets you feel the icing as you work, which helps control the flow. For buttercream or thicker frostings, I'd go with sturdier, thicker bags, but for royal icing, thin is the way to go. If you're looking for recommendations, check the description below, where I've linked my go-to bags. Now, let's get into filling the piping bag, starting with outlining cookies. When I'm prepping a bag for outlining, I use a thicker royal icing consistency and only fill the bag about 1/4 to 1/3 full. This keeps it lightweight and easy to hold, giving me better control for those clean, precise lines. Overfilling can make the bag harder to handle and even cause hand cramps when working on detailed designs. There's also a big difference between prepping a bag for outlining versus flooding. For flooding, I use a thinner icing consistency and fill the bag a bit more, about halfway to 2/3 full, since flooding uses more icing. However, I still avoid overfilling because you need enough room in the bag to twist the top securely and handle it comfortably. Each type of bag setup plays an important role in making your decorating process smooth and enjoyable. All right, let's get this piping bag ready. First, I fold the top of the bag over to create a little cuff. Trust me, this step is a game changer. It keeps the outside of the bag clean and gives me a nice wide opening to work with. No more juggling icing and trying to keep things neat. Then, I pop the bag into a sturdy cup or jar and fold the cuff over the rim. It's like giving your piping bag a little helping hand, so it doesn't flop around while you're trying to fill it. When I'm working on outlining or drawing, I don't need a ton of icing. I grab my trusty silicone spatula, scoop up the thick royal icing, and spoon it into the bag. Here's the trick. Don't overfill it. 1/4 to 1/3 of the bag is plenty. If you overdo it, you'll be wrestling the bag like it's a rogue balloon, and no one wants that. Once the icing is in, I unfold the cuff and bring the bag to a vertical position. Then I give it a little shake, not too much, just enough to help the icing settle and flow down toward the tip. It's a quick move that saves a lot of frustration later. Finally, I twist the top of the bag and tie a simple knot. No fancy tying techniques or extra tools needed, just a knot. And we're good to go. Easy, right? Now the bag is prepped, clean, and ready to help you create some amazing designs without any icing explosions. If you're watching this and thinking, wait, I don't even know how to make royal icing yet. Don't worry, I've got you covered. In another video, I walk you through my foolproof royal icing recipe, sharing all my personal tips and tricks to make it smooth, glossy, and perfect for decorating. Trust me, it's easier than you think, and I even explain what to do if your icing turns out too thick or too runny. Been there, fixed that. Plus, I'll share a few funny mishaps I've had with royal icing over the years. You'll laugh, you'll learn, and by the end, you'll feel like a pro. So, if you're ready to whip up a batch of icing that will turn your cookies into edible masterpieces, go check it out. And while you're there, leave a comment and let me know if you've ever accidentally turned your kitchen into a powdered sugar snowstorm. I promise you're not alone. For flooding, the process is pretty similar to outlining, but there's one important difference: how much icing you add to the bag. Since we're working with thinner icing, I fill the piping bag a bit more, usually about halfway to 2/3 full. The key is balance. You want enough icing to make flooding easy, but not so much that the bag becomes hard to handle. Always leave a little room at the top so you can twist it securely and have full control while decorating. Because flooding icing flows so smoothly, it's important to check for air bubbles before you seal the bag. Trust me, nothing derails decorating faster than a surprise icing eruption. To avoid this, I bring the bag to a vertical position and give it a gentle shake. This helps any trapped air bubbles rise to the top. Once they're there, I lightly squeeze the top of the bag to push them out completely. When it's time to seal the bag, I like to keep things simple. No clips or rubber bands needed. A good old-fashioned twist at the top and a secure knot do the trick every time. Make sure the knot is nice and snug so there's no chance of icing escaping out the wrong end while you work. And that's it. Your piping bag is prepped, clean, and ready to flood those cookies with smooth, even precision. Now all that's left is to let your creativity flow and watch your cookies come to life. When it's time to cut the tip of the piping bag, I like to channel my inner precision artist. Because let's face it, this step can make or break your decorating game. For outlining, I start by cutting a tiny opening at the tip, just enough for a thin, clean line. I use sharp scissors and go slow, because you can always snip a bit more. But once the hole is too big, There's no turning back. For flooding, I make the cut a little bigger, so the icing flows easily and saves me from squeezing my hand into oblivion. Now, if I accidentally cut the tip too small, which happens to the best of us, I just test it on parchment paper and trim a tiny bit more until the flow feels just right. If I get overexcited and cut the tip too large for outlining, I admit defeat and transfer the icing into a fresh piping bag. It's not the end of the world, just a small hiccup that's totally fixable. And here's a tip for keeping things under control before you start decorating. If you're worried about the icing dripping, I simply fold the tip upward to seal it temporarily. Easy, right? Or if I'm working with multiple bags, I rest the tip on a damp cloth to stop any sneaky drips and keep the icing from drying out. It's a little trick that makes a big difference. Taking the time to cut the tip properly is totally worth it. Whether I'm outlining or flooding, getting the size just right gives me full control. And few icing meltdowns. With the right setup, I can create those polished professional designs that make everyone wonder if I secretly own a bakery. When working with multiple consistencies or colors of royal icing, staying organized is key to a smooth decorating process. I like to label each piping bag or group them by task to keep everything clear. For example, bags for outlining should always have a smaller cut at the tip and less icing inside. This makes them lightweight and easy to handle, perfect for those fine details. On the other hand, flooding bags need a larger cut and more icing since they're used to fill larger areas. Keeping things organized not only saves time, but also reduces stress, especially when you're juggling multiple colors. Here's a little trick I've learned. Label your piping bags with a black Sharpie before filling them. Write down the color or consistency of the icing directly on the bag to stay on top of things. I like to use a thick Sharpie with a dull, soft tip for this. It's gentle on the bag and prevents accidentally poking a hole through it. Trust me, nothing derails decorating faster than a surprise icing leak. Before diving into decorating, I recommend giving each bag a gentle knead. This step ensures the icing is evenly mixed, especially if the bag has been sitting for a while. Think of it as waking up the icing and getting it ready to flow smoothly. Plus, kneading helps eliminate any air pockets that might cause unexpected hiccups during decorating. Sometimes you might not use all your icing in one go, and that's totally fine. Storing leftover royal icing is simple. First, transfer any leftover icing into a fresh piping bag. This keeps things neat and prevents dried bits of icing from clogging the tip later. Twist the top tightly and tie it off with a knot to secure it. Next, place the bags into an airtight container to prevent the icing from drying out. Store the container in the refrigerator where the icing will stay fresh for up to 3 days. When you're ready to use it again, take the bags out and let them come to room temperature. Cold icing can be stiff and difficult to work with, so this step is crucial. Once the icing has warmed up, give the bags another gentle knead to restore the consistency. By staying organized and following these tips, you'll have a seamless decorating process and perfectly stored icing that's ready to go whenever you are. Whether you're finishing up a project later or starting fresh, a little planning goes a long way in making the experience stress-free and fun. Decorating cookies with royal icing has become a cherished tradition in my house, especially around the holidays. It is messy, creative, and one of the best ways to turn plain cookies into edible works of art. I still remember my first attempt. Wobbly lines, uneven flooding, and cookies that looked more like abstract art than anything else. But over time, I got the hang of it, learning that patience, practice, and a sense of humor go a long way. One holiday season, I decided to go all out with snowflakes, gingerbread men, Christmas trees, you name it. I spent hours outlining and flooding each cookie. But somewhere around the fifth snowflake, my piping hand started cramping. That is when I realized I had been overfilling my piping bag. Lesson learned. Less is more when it comes to filling those bags. Despite the hand cramps, the cookies turned out beautifully, and my family and friends loved them. Then there was the year I invited my daughter and her friends to join me. Big mistake, or maybe not, depending on how you look at it. More icing ended up in their mouths than on the cookies, and by the end of the session, they were on a sugar high, bouncing off the walls. The cookies? Let us just say they had a creative touch. Now, I keep the decorating all to myself. It is a win-win. The cookies look better, and my kitchen stays a little cleaner. Decorating is all about the details. A small piping tip for clean outlines, a larger one for smooth flooding, and those little finishing touches like dots or marbling that make each cookie feel like its own masterpiece. These days, it is my favorite way to unwind and get creative during the holidays. And if you are looking for ways to save this holiday season, stay tuned. I am recording another video on how to save $1,000 on Christmas gifts while still making the holidays magical. Hit that subscribe button so you do not miss it. In the meantime, grab some cookies, whip up some royal icing, and start decorating. Just maybe keep an eye on how much icing ends up in little mouths if you have got helpers. And that's it. By now, you've got perfectly filled piping bags for both outlining and flooding, all prepped and ready to go. With the right tools, the right amount of icing, and a little patience, you're well on your way to creating stunning cookie designs with ease. Remember, a well-prepared piping bag is your secret weapon for smooth decorating sessions and flawless results. Taking the time to label your bags, choose the right cut for the tip, and check for air bubbles may seem like small details, but they make all the difference in keeping your process stress-free and fun. Whether you're outlining intricate patterns or flooding a cookie with that satisfying glossy finish, these steps ensure your icing flows exactly how you want it to. Now that your bags are ready, it's time to bring your cookies to life. If you're wondering how to use these bags for outlining and flooding, I've got you covered. In my next video, I'll walk you through exactly how to flood a cookie with royal icing to achieve that smooth, professional finish. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Thanks so much for joining me today. I can't wait to see what you create. Happy decorating. See you in the next video.